All right, everyone, we're going to get started, and I'm actually live streaming this as well, just so if you want to check back for some reference on what I said, you can do that. We'll start off with prayer. Let's pray. Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for each family in First Baptist School, and I pray that you would help us to continue to grow as a school. I ask that you be with our meeting tonight. In your name we pray, amen. So a few things that I want to talk about. When I announced the homework policy change, obviously I had some mixed reviews, and I eventually started to receive emails, so I want to put everyone's fears and worries to bed a little bit. So I want to start off by just breaking down this homework policy, what it is not. So you don't have to worry about this, but this is not to punish students. This is not anything that is meant to say, hey, this kid is not doing such and such, so therefore, we're going to teach this kid. We're not interested in doing that. Number two, this is not to make school more challenging for the student. That's not what we're interested in terms of, we're not trying to ask our students to do more than they're capable of doing. In a school our size, the reality is our kids are pulled in so many different directions. We have athletics, and as they get higher up, you're in varsity sports, you're getting home from a game at 11 o'clock. So I understand, and then you're turning back around and you have homework and you have this and that. So we're not trying to make things more challenging. And then also, this is not an overcorrection to a problem. This is not, once again, me saying, you know what, I'm going to teach everyone this is the way it has to be. So it's none of those things, okay? But here is what it is and what I'm looking for. First off, accountability and responsibility. I want every one of our students, including my children, they're students in the school, I want our students to learn to turn their work in on time, because everything we do as an adult has to be on time. We pay our bills on time, or there's a punishment for that. There's a consequence for that. We have to be at work on time. And so we want to really push that with our kids, especially as they are getting older. Now, you're going to hear now from me, I don't want to be the old person say, back in my day. But back in my day, as a student here at First Baptist School, here is what the policy was. Your homework was due the day that the teacher said. If it was not turned in at the beginning of class, the grade went to an 80% if you had it by the end of the day. If you didn't, it was a 0. And there were no questions asked. That's just what it was. I survived that. And I'm thankful for that, because then I went to college and I found out my professor, he was worse. And so we want to help our kids to realize, hey, you have a responsibility to turn things in. And then also, from the accountability standpoint, you pay so much money to our school because you love your kid. Your kids need to show respect for the sacrifice you are making. And the least they can do is turn in their work on time, because you guys are busting your backside to send them here. And I know that. And I appreciate that. And I want to help you help them, okay? So we want accountability and responsibility. Secondly, we want to use this to identify a struggling student sooner. Let me just tell you what happens. A kid tells you, middle school kid, Mom, Dad, I turned in my homework. The teacher must have lost it. I will tell you this. One time in my teaching career, I lost homework. It was a one stack, and everyone in the class was missing that assignment. So one time, and I was in the room that's up here where Mr. Jenkins is, and it fell behind this thing. I had no clue. As the teacher, I realized, I messed up. Sorry, everyone's missing this. I'm going to excuse this assignment. I'm not going to make them redo it. But as a standard practice, that's not the case. What happens in middle school, like I've seen with my own children, is this. I know I did that assignment, and they did do it. It's still in their backpack or in their locker in a book. It really is there. I've had my kids say, oh, that's where that assignment was. It was actually in their gym bag, and it was due 2 months before. So they did it. It just didn't make it to where it needed to. So when that happens, sometimes we're not able to identify, okay, is this kid struggling or are they lazy? Because the natural tendency is going to be that we're going to think, oh, this kid's not doing his work, they don't care. Now, we shouldn't think that way, but sometimes as human, we can go that route as a teacher. I'm investing in this child. This child doesn't care what I'm doing. Well, if their homework is due when it's supposed to be done, we can identify the problem right away. We know, okay, maybe this kid's actually just struggling to do it, okay? And we'll talk more about that here in a minute. But number 3, preparation for the future at the collegiate level. I'm going to brag on our kids that graduate. When our kids leave here, they do go on and are successful at the collegiate level. They do well. Our kids do not struggle in college in terms of their preparation. You understand, when our kids leave here, just in English alone, these kids are like, they're English majors. If they're going to the University of Minnesota, they're not being asked to diagram a sentence. But our kids can do that. And they're able to be very successful in the world. And so I want you to understand, that's why we're holding them to this higher standard, because of what they're going to be able to do. And so our kids do well. Our average ACT score has been between 24 and 25. That's not bad. We're in District 196. District 196 is one of the top districts in the country. People move here because of the district we're in. The average ACT score in District 196 is a 22. So we're performing above them. And that's counting our kids who maybe, think about our worst kid academically, typically in the public school, is going to be okay. So you have to think about that. Not in every case, but most of our kids that fall in that category. We have kids that will go to special ed, or try to help them through the district get special education, and they don't qualify because they say, well, they're too high for our bar. So just understanding what we're doing here. Now, the homework policy in and of itself, just to give you some details. As a general rule, there will be no late homework, and it won't be accepted after 3 p.m., okay? Now, that's a general rule. But homework that is turned in after the start of class will be graded starting at an 80%. So if they don't turn it in when the class has started, okay, you have till the end of the day. We're showing some grace, 80%. End of the day, you can get an 80% on that assignment where it starts at, okay? Now, obviously, they could get lower than that, but just saying the starting point is 80%, and if they miss things, lower than that, okay? There will be some exceptions, and the exceptions will be the following. You're sick on the day an assignment is due, and I'm going to explain that. Kids obviously get sick. We understand that. The student, when they are sick, our policy has always been, you have that many days that you are sick to make up the homework. So if I'm gone for 1 day, I have 1 day to get that stuff in. It's not due then, okay? If I am sick, but I had an assignment that was assigned, prior to that, let's say I had a science fair project, and my science fair project has been assigned from the beginning of the semester. Now it's April 15th, and that science project is due, but I'm sick. I still need to turn that in April 16th. I don't get April 17th to turn it. That makes sense, because you would have already had that assigned. We're talking about work that was assigned the day that you miss school. You get a day to make that up, okay? So if you're sick on a day or an extended period of time, there's exceptions for that. Questions on the previous night's homework. Let's say you're taking a math class and you're in Algebra 2 and you have 6 or 7 problems you're just struggling with. You do not get. The teacher is going to have mercy on that and help that student. What we're trying to stop is this. You were assigned 15 problems and you have 14 blank answers. And you say, oh, I didn't know how to do these. Oh, okay, all 14 of them? That's probably not the case. Students do that. And so we're trying to eliminate those sorts of things. But if you have 5 or 6 problems, we understand that, and the teachers are going to use discretion. You have an IEP, which means that you have some type of individual education plan that has been approved by us. We recognize it. We're going to work with those students. That's a little different. So you don't have to worry about that. The teacher grants special permission. There are times when the teacher might say, hey, I know I had this assignment due, but because of this is going to take you longer than the allotted time that we have. Let's say those 6 math problems, he or she has multiple people that they're working with that day. Hey, this is going to take longer than that. I will extend grace to you, and I'll work with you after school, so this will be due later on. Everyone follow that? So the teacher will use discretion. Administrative permission as well. So you come to me or Mr. Fletcher in the secondary and you say, hey, we have this circumstance. Can you please consider this? Then I can go and talk with the teacher. Now, I do want you to not bypass the teacher to talk to me. You should include me and the teacher together in what you are requesting. But it's almost always better when you can go to the teacher first because I'm not in that class. So I don't know. Bypassing them and going to me is not the best solution. So go to them first. But if for some reason you can't get a hold to them or whatever it might be, or there is a problem, then by all means you bring Mr. Fletcher or myself in to that, Mr. Fletcher for the middle school and then myself for the high school. But I am able to help in the middle school as well if need be. If you can't get a hold to me, Mrs. Murphy is the assistant principal in the high school. Mrs. Murphy, raise your hand in case you don't know, but you can go to her as well, and we'll work with you, okay? Just a few more things here. Other information. If a student is sick, I mentioned this, for consecutive days, they have that many days to make up the work. After this, the assignments are 0 in the grade book. And then tests and quizzes will be treated the same as the homework. But I will say that the teacher will use discretion in this area. But in general, we're saying you need to have your tests and quizzes made up. Here's what's happening in a lot of the classes. The kid misses a day or two. We need to hand back the tests that we've given, but we don't want to hand back our tests yet to the students who already took the test, because now that your student who is sick can see that test. You understand? So your student, all of a sudden, they haven't taken the test and it's been 2 or 3 weeks. And now we have a problem. Why is this important? Well, yes, the student can look at grade length, but also at the end of the semester, we have a final where all of those tests are cumulative, and they're able to look at that test, and because there's some kids who are very studious. As soon as they get the test back, they're already starting to review for what they know is coming up. Because our finals, I have a science final for 8th grade earth science. Well, on their final, they're responsible for knowing 150 questions, and I'm just one class. So you have to think about that. They have multiple classes. So we want to make sure we get that. And I'll just say this. I understand as parents, we're all busy. So if we email, sometimes you might miss our email. So the teacher maybe communicates through email. You miss the email. Well, the student never gets it done. And then you look at grade link and you say, oh no, my student is behind. Well, it's a lot of times where their grade's low, it's because they didn't get a test done or a quiz done. So that's the homework policy. And I'm going to address a few other things here at the meeting as well, so I won't keep your time, but then I'll give you a chance to ask about the homework policy, okay? So let me address these other things. I will come back to the homework policy, all right? Just a few things I wanted to mention to you while I have you here. I wanted to throw this out to you. There's some fundraising opportunities I would like to take advantage of, and one of them is a silent auction. If you're interested in this or you have any experience in this area, would you contact me? I'd like for us to consider doing something to raise more funds for our school. There's a couple of projects that I think would be beneficial. And also, I'd like to get some feedback. I've had some parents come to me about restarting our PTF, or PTA, same thing, but restarting that. And if you're interested in that, if you would come see me as well. I've already had some parents, but this would be just so we can connect every so often. We used to do it one time, I think every two, did we have 4 every year? Mrs. Murphy, I think it was. So I would cut that down, maybe to 2 or 3, But anyways, if you're interested in that, contact me. That'd be great. And then I want to talk to the high school parents because the second semester is coming and the high school schedules are coming out. We are noticing some of our secondary students in the high school, some in the middle school as well, are starting to struggle in some of the classes like math and English. And our math classes are geared obviously to teaching the general students, which means the kids who pretty much are getting it. Now, I want to help the kids who are struggling, but for me to do that, I would like to know just from you, if you have a student that you feel like really is struggling, there's potential for me to hire someone to come in and be kind of a tutor to help them. There would be an extra fee for that because we have to pay for that, but it would be discounted, but we want to help your student succeed. So in the high school, that's important because of them needing the high school credits to graduate. So if your student's falling behind, you're seeing D's and F's, we should be in contact right away, okay? Also, for you that have middle school students, yours is a little different. It's not high school credit, but we want to be able to help them while they're in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade to not fall in the cracks. We want to help them. The world we live in today, math and science are pretty important. So anything we can do to help them, we'd like to do that. But if you have a student that's struggling, feel free to talk to me. Now, my teachers are aware of several students, and so we will be reaching out to you as well, and we have been reaching out to you, but I want you to know that. And then also, I wanted to just mention this about helping middle school students to be successful, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about the high school students. If you have a middle school student, I'm just really encouraging you to check GradeLink daily. You have to check that thing. I am also making sure the teachers they're trying to have their things updated, but I will tell you, I have a middle school student. They are trying to do their things, I believe, but middle school students sometimes, like I said, they think that they've done things or they've said they've done things and they haven't. You have to really check. How do you check? You need to check their book bag to make sure homework has left their bag. You need to be on them like that. That is going to help them so much. It's just in middle school, I don't know what happens. Elementary, they have this nice, neat packet, and everything's together. And then they get to middle school, and they just forget stuff. I mean, it's just, they can't remember it. So if you can help them, that'd be great. And then I want to encourage communication between the parent and teacher. Parents, you are not bothering us when you communicate with us, and hopefully we're not bothering you when we communicate. We have to talk to each other. If you're seeing something, you are not troubling the teachers by going to them, and I'm telling you, you are not troubling me by talking to me. My job is to impart, help solve the problem that you're having. I'm not saying that I have the answer to everything, but I'm dead sure going to work my best to try to help your student be successful. So you've got to come talk to me. You're not bothering me, okay? I actually hate when parents come to me. I hate to bother you. I know you're busy. We're all busy. So you've got to talk to me. Feel free to talk to the teachers. And, excuse me. And then in the high school, you just want to make sure you're reminding them that their classes are worth credit. Please remind them that they need to pass. And if you see them struggling, we've got to intervene right away, okay? Then I wanted to address the middle school and one more thing here with middle school behavior. So, I believe our teachers do a good job of classroom control. But I want to ask you as parents to help us out a little bit with just a few things. Number one, classroom obedience. So, what do I mean by classroom obedience? We do not expect our students in middle school to have their hands perfectly folded. And as we walk into the classroom, "Good morning, teacher. How may I serve you today?" Like, we're not expecting that. That's not happening. I remember being in middle school. I never was like that. But what we do want from them is, like I tell my kids, you should treat your teacher as if your teacher were me. I want my kids to come into their classroom, and if the teacher asks them to be quiet, they do it because they're showing respect. In some of the classes, we're having a little bit of difficulty with that. The teacher is telling them, all right, and they're not yelling or screaming at them. They're saying, "Hey, it's time to be quiet. Let's learn." Well, Johnny over here keeps talking, and Johnny's been told not to talk. And Johnny sometimes doesn't believe that there's going to be a consequence for that. So as parents, help Johnny understand there's a consequence for not obeying what he's told. And all we're telling them is simple things like, all right, I need you to focus. Because we know kids have fun. You know, in my science class, I think they would tell you, I joke around with them, but I got to get their attention back. You want to make sure that you remind your kids. You need, ask them, "Hey, are you one of those kids that Mr. McKinney was talking about?" And they'll say no, probably, but just reminding you to help with that. And then also tardy to class. Some of the middle school students are showing up to their class 10 minutes late. Why? I was in the bathroom. Whoa, that long, that many times. So if they have to use the bathroom, there's a period in between where they can do that. Or if it's an emergency, they know it's an emergency, they should go to the teacher first, say, "I'm going to be gone for a bit." The teacher understands that, okay? I think that's about as much I need to tell you on that. But if you want to help them with that. And then language outside of the classroom. We're a Christian school. And as a Christian school, there's only so many things we can do. I'm just being truthful with you. As staff, we try to monitor as much as we possibly can. We're not just sitting in our classrooms. We're walking through the hallways. We are trying to be where we need to be. But we can't stop everything. But there are moments when I know I've walked through the hallway and I think, did I hear what I thought I heard? And I'll pull the student aside. Did you say what I think you said? No, sir. Let's make sure that you didn't do that. But parents, I'm telling you, Christian school, we want to be a cut above. And you need to make sure you're on your kids about the words they are saying. I would encourage you, whenever I hear a new phrase, I instantly Google that new phrase and I find out what does that mean. And then when I see what it means and it's from the latest rap song that's not good, that's a problem. Now I know as parents, we can't monitor everything they do, but sometimes you have to assume the worst first and then get to it. And I'm not saying if a teacher comes to me about, my kid in that area, I assume the teacher's right first. And then I figure out the facts. Now, teacher might be wrong, or might have misinterpreted the situation, but I'm just telling you, when it comes to this thing of language, there's things that are being said, and I just need your help with it. Because I know what you all want. I know you're not telling them to say that stuff. I know that. But just be aware. And then the final thing, just want to remind you about phones. The phones, I've had many of you reach out to me about group chats and things of that nature. So I'm telling you, what I would encourage you strongly to do. These kids know more about phones than you and I do. And they know how to hide stuff very well. They really do. And they have coded passwords and things that you don't know. You didn't ask me this, but I'm just going to tell you, like I said in the beginning of the year at the parent orientation, TikTok, I would get rid of off my kid's phone. Instagram, I don't think they need it because I've been through study halls before and I've seen when they had their phone out quickly and they put it away and I see what they're scrolling down through, through their Instagram and they're looking at people who are not clothed very well and things of that nature. So we got to be on top of that. We want to protect these kids and you can't trust them with that phone. You just can't. They need to earn that trust. There's nothing wrong. I had an older gentleman say to me, and I hear what he's saying. He said, my kid's phone could text, and that's all it did, and call. There's some wisdom to that, and because the group chats, there's some things that aren't very good going through that, and I'm going to tell you, it's in each grade. So maybe you might want to check the kids' phones, making sure they don't have that stuff, okay? I think I've said enough. I think you understand. So, okay. Now, I want to come back to the homework policy, and I'm going to ask Mr. Weifels, would you grab a microphone for me? Because we're streaming this, if you have a question, I want you to be able to speak into the microphone so that we're able to pick it up, because some parent at home might be wondering, what's the answer to that? So if you have a question, maybe about the homework policy, or even about something that I said, or just a question midway through the year here. All right, Mrs. Maximoff. Yep, hold on real quick. Can we get the black mic for her? You can try that again for me, Mrs. Maximoff. Yeah, it's on.
Can you mention a few words about the seniors who are doing lunches and missing those classes?
Sure.
Regarding homework.
Sure. So this year I'm the senior advisor for the high school seniors, and right now with our senior lunches, seniors are doing very well, earning money, and the plan is to go to kind of a 3-stop thing. We're going to go to New York, D.C., and then part of Pennsylvania for a little bit. So we're going to go through those 3 different things, but they're doing well in their concessions. I encourage you to have your seniors, for you that have seniors, have them work the games, because that's where they earn the big time money staying after. Then also, if you don't have a senior, but you just love the seniors and you want to donate to them, I'm sure they would love that. But senior lunches are going well. And then might I say this too, because I'm involved in that process, Mrs. Murphy and Miss Hutchins have really helped me big time, along with Mrs. Borner. But if you can even, you didn't ask this question, but if you could make sure that you're getting calendars in and the names of your kids, it's nice if it's on individual calendars, but if for some reason you just one calendar for everyone, that'd be great. And then also, if you know your kid doesn't like a certain lunch, that's more elementary, have them not do that. I'm guilty of that. I circle a whole month because it's easy, and then my kid says, I hate egg rolls. Okay, I'm sorry, I forget. But anyways, that would be helpful to us. Hopefully that answers.
What about the seniors who are missing certain classes and they have homework due on
Yes.
that class?
So let's say you have a senior who is missing a class. They need to go to their teacher. That's what they've been instructed to go to their teacher to make sure they get what is missed. What happens a lot of times is the senior will say, well, I'm doing this, fundraiser for the school. Well, it's not for the school. The senior lunches don't benefit us. It's solely for your senior trip. We're just providing a way for you to be able to pay for it. And so you have to go to your teacher when you miss an assignment. You have to do that. And then get in. Yeah. All right, can we pass the microphone up here? Yes, Mr. Reese.
So my question is regarding the homework policy and understanding how, what's the word, incomplete is handled now. Because I'll be honest, from a perspective of a parent, having a report or something that says you have this incomplete, my first question then is to the kid, like you said, is going to say, I did it, confirm with your teacher. If not, that night you're doing it. You're just going to redo it. Where I'm kind of getting the impression there's no need for that, because either you get it in that day, it's at 80%, or it's a 0. And I think that kind of gives me a red flag, because if I'm checking GradeLink every day, I'm going to see my kid going from an A to a C, maybe, and that's going to, I guess there's no way that we can help them and manage that, because I don't know if my kid is leaving his homework in his backpack, right?
Yeah.
So can you explain and help me
Sure.
think through that better? Because I don't know how I'm going to help our kid manage this if I don't understand. I just see it in his GradeLink.
Sure. So let me actually back up just a little bit. Some of you have seen either a teacher put, let's say they're absent. You may maybe see an AB, I think, in your guys' end of it. Or they misassignment, the teacher has left it blank. It's clearly it was due, but it was left blank. Or maybe you see an incomplete. So here's what I have done, because I've seen better responses from parents and students. If I put, absent, now I'll mark it for myself. I know it's absent. I'll put a comment on my end. The teachers have that ability. They can put absent. But a lot of times we will put incomplete, because then when the teacher or the parent sees the incomplete and it's a 0%, they're on their student to make sure they get that in. Versus if you see the absent, it doesn't count against them. So then they never do anything with it. Now, that being said, with this change, the incomplete, you are probably going to see that a teacher is going to put incomplete to make sure that gets in. So they're absent clearly that day. The teacher will most likely put an incomplete there to make sure that it gets in. And the teacher will try to communicate with the parent to make sure that you understand, hey, here's what's happening. I actually sent an email out to the staff today, and I said, because of this change in homework policy, what you're going to see is the communication has to be at top-notch level. And so when you do have a kid that's missed a day or whatever, we will comment to ourselves. We know that they were absent. You'll know that they're absent. So if you see that incomplete, you'll know that they were missing. If you see a 0, then you know that they just didn't turn it in. So that'll be the distinction. You might have some teachers, just because of habit, put the AB there. But I've tried to get the teachers to put the incomplete there, because that gets the result that we want, if that makes sense. We want that homework turned in. But it'll be incomplete or 0. Or obviously whatever grade they got. Does that make sense?
I mean, I understand what you're trying to say with the absent and incomplete.
Sure. And let me even make this statement, because I know you want to know how do you help the student. So what I would say is this: we're going to show some grace in this beginning period, so we're going to try to help the students as well. The goal is, I already know what's going to happen, especially in the middle school. The middle school is going to struggle with this. This is not going to be, we're trying to tank their grade, or we're going to do what we can to help them. My goal is, though, without them knowing this, my goal is by the 4th 9 weeks, they have a pretty good understanding of how to get on top of things, making sure it gets in. So let's say you have your kid is, not turning, or they've turned in something late. Oh, we forgot that to turn this assignment in. He turns in at the end of the day as a middle school student. The teachers have been instructed to have some discretion there. And then also, as I said before, we'll communicate with you as a parent so you know. So you'll see a lot of communication here in the beginning, especially hey, your son didn't turn this in. We're going to extend some grace, or daughter, or whatever. So we'll work together to help them. You are going to have your kids say, oh, maybe I turned that in, But the teachers, the policy for the teachers is this: they have to have homework graded between 24 and 48 hours. It has to be graded. So if you see it blank, that means it just hasn't been graded yet. They have that window. If it's a major assignment, 72 hours to a week, they need to fit it in within that time. So will some kids struggle in the beginning? Yes, but we're gonna try to help them. It's not just gonna be December 23rd, you didn't turn this in, that's how we're teaching you. We're not trying to do that. We're gonna try to ease them into it, and I've already been prepping the kids. They've known about this for most of the first semester, that this was coming. So I've tried to prep them. So as a parent, like I said, I don't know if I'm giving you the best answer in terms of how to help them, but just knowing that we're gonna work with you. It's not just gonna be lower the hammer, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and if I could just add a follow-up question, right?
Yep.
Say due to timing, right, and getting grades in, and we notice a 0, and we reach out to our student and say, we see you have a 0 for this homework grade. Obviously, they said they turned it in, right? At that point, to go along with responsibility and respect, do we have the student go to the teacher and say, what happened there? Or is it as a parent, we saw on Grade Link it's a 0, we emailed the teacher? Like,
Yeah, sure.
Is it both?
That's a great question. I like both. One, the parents, it's encouraging to me when a parent emails me because I know that you're caring, which I know you care anyways. But it encouraged me, you're seeing what's happening. But I also like for the student to learn how to approach the authority and say, hey, here's what I did, and then we can have a conversation. What we don't want is this, because students have done this before. The middle of class, I turned that in. Well, as an authority, what's our natural response? Kid, you didn't turn that in, right? But if you come to me after class and say, Mr. McKinney, I thought I turned that in, here's what I thought, okay. I will take that and I'll say, like, I'm a reasonable person. I think all of our teachers are reasonable. Okay, I didn't see it. I will check through my stuff again. The kid comes back to me. Let's say I have a kid I've had that before. A kid, he turns in every assignment on time. And he has like one, he forgot one or something. I've given grace in that and I said, okay, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt that you turned this in. So I'm not gonna make you redo it. I'm just gonna excuse it. But I'm telling you, make sure that you put it in this spot, this, so on and so forth. And all of us teachers are reasonable like that. Like I said, what we're trying to get away from is, this kid has not turned in hardly any assignments, and then they're coming to us and say, I turned that one in. Your track record shows me you probably haven't, so I don't see it, if that makes sense. But I want you to communicate with us as parents, and I also want your student to learn to approach the teacher. All right, someone else. Anyone else, if you have? All right.
Looking at your the reasoning for why you did it, the first part, accountability, love it. I'm a 30-year military officer, love accountability. The next two I kind of struggled with a little bit because I think a temporary incomplete, which nets a 0, should identify a problem student just as quickly as a permanent incomplete, which also nets a 0. And then, college preparation, you guys clearly do an amazing job of that, so kudos, that's awesome. I think that's why so many of us are here. For myself, bachelor's, graduate degree, continuing medical education, beyond that, rarely have I don't think I could ever remember anything other than like basic military training where it was like 0, 100 or 0 type thing. So as I make a decision in my military career or as an executive in my company, whenever we make a big change, I always try to think like, who are the people it's gonna impact the most? Who are the people it's gonna impact the least? And you kind of bucket people, and I think, okay, about maybe 20, 25% of these kids are just straight A's, they're getting all the awards. You don't even have to tell them this policy changed because it's irrelevant. And maybe there's like 20, 25% at that bottom end that really struggle to perform and turn things in. And I don't know how much this changes that for them, but then there's that kind of middle sector of the bulk, which are A, B, C students that are, you know, boys, girls, adolescents going through puberty, all these changes that, you know, they forget things. We all, you know, we all did it, we all know. And it feels like that group is the one that's gonna suffer the most because we're gonna lose that window of accountability. And as you mentioned, you know, if you don't pay your bill, you're gonna pay a fee. But if you don't pay your bill on the 15th, they're not gonna come take your house. You're gonna pay an additional $40, $50 fee. It's gonna hurt, and it's gonna make you know, like, okay, don't do that again, because that stunk.
Yeah.
You're not homeless, you know? And then I also try to think as a Christian and think of the least of these. And in our family, we're blessed. My wife stays home. If our kids forget something, they can text mom. She's gonna be mad. There's gonna be consequences at home, but mom can get in the car and she can drive it over here. And I think of, what about a single parent? Or what about dual income families where it's like you're texting mom and she's on an assembly line and she doesn't see this message until it's pickup time. And those kids suffer. And so that, like, for me, that's,
What's the way out?
yeah, that's the concern I have is, you know, do I think it'll impact my children? Yes, but I don't think it will impact my children as much as it might in somebody.
Sure.
In those. And I know I unloaded a lot on there, so. but
No,
just
that's
trying to-
so these are all things, honestly, I've thought about and thought through. And what we're running into, so if this will even add a little more context, all of those things our staff is aware of, and we're willing to work through that. What we're trying to eliminate is this, like, we're willing to give the benefit of the doubt. What's happening is this: the grace has been abused so much so that I'm having to tell my math teacher, you know, they're putting in 80 hours now a week because they're at home grading all this late homework. The last eligibility list we printed had 14 pages of kids with missing assignments. That's a lot. And it's like, math lesson that was missing, it's not one, it's 5. And sometimes it's 10 math lessons in a 3-week period. So all these are missing. The teacher has reached out, said, hey, student is missing. So it's not that we're just sitting there, you know, kind of waiting, twiddling our thumbs, like, hope the parents look. No, there's been an email, been some type of communication or trying to call or whatever. But we get it, parents are busy, so sometimes they don't always get to that. And now the kid's falling behind. Well, if, you know, I'm using Mrs. Lynch. Mrs. Lynch has 105 math students. She teaches all of them. How many hours in a day does she have to help all of them like that? You follow what I'm saying? So now this kid's missing all his lessons. So that's what we're running into. It's when we had the tiered system was kind of abused. So after a set amount of days, the assignments never getting in, the teachers having to hold on to current assignments before they can give them, and then all of a sudden now we're giving a bunch. And then you have some kids who do turn in everything who are saying, well, I wish I would have had this before because, you know, so on and so forth. So everything you're saying, 100% agree with. Don't disagree. Where we're trying to come in is we can work through all the things that you said. We really can, because I understand. If a kid legitimately, like, hey, Mr. McKinney, I forget stuff. So I want some grace. So I'm willing to give grace. But our policy is more like, here's the standard. We know that not everyone's going to meet that standard, but we can work with them as long as they're trying. We want to get kids trying again. And what I'm feeling like as a whole is when I have 14, 15 pages, that's not trying. Like, you can't, you know, when I have 60% potentially of the student body who is, trying to get their stuff in and doing a good job. And you have the other 40% who they have all, I always say a Bible scroll of homework that I'm handing them this assignment sheet that you're not, getting in. We don't want that. So once again, we'll work with any student who's legitimately trying, and we know and we understand, or a parent that's legitimately concerned. We're going to work with that. Like I said, it's not us. We're not going to stick it to some kid. If you're the single mother out there and you're working hard, like, we understand. So we're not trying to do that, but we are trying to shore it up. I don't know if that helped answer.
No, I just have an example.
Yeah.
So like you said, like check grade link daily. I'm a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
I have the notifications that come on the banner on my phone. They come to my email. I get them all day. So, and I check grade link probably 4 times a day for all my kids. I'm a little obsessed about it. So just as an example, and just wondering what the standard of practice will be from like a teacher side of things for us as parents to help them. And this maybe goes along with like your question about the incomplete. My son had math incompletes after Mrs. Lynch's class. She must have immediately put the incomplete into the system. I was at home doing laundry. I saw it on my phone. I sent a screenshot to my son. He went and turned them in. So that's kind of our standard of practice, as to keep the incompletes out of the system. But I'm blessed in that way, and not everybody is. And so my question is, will that be the standard of practice for the teacher when the class is over? The class is done. I'm going to now take 5 to 10 minutes to put in all of my incomplete so the parents have a chance. Because if there is, in my mind, with my kid who's the loophole finder, once it's a 0, why do it? What's the way out? I understand the discipline. I understand needing to teach the kids like responsibility and accountability. But I have a child who, once it's a 0, we forget about it. We ain't doing that.
Yeah.
Like, if there is no way out for me, I'm not going to do it.
Sure.
So I guess in order for me to help my son by 3 o'clock of that day, I need what Mrs. Lynch does. I need an incomplete as soon as the class is over, or I can't help him.
Sure.
And that was great that I was able to fix that for you. But I know that that is not how everyone operates their life. I was a full-time employee at a company who had very high expectations. I take those expectations with me into my stay-at-home mom job, and so I a little bit micromanage my children, but I can't micromanage and help them if I don't know it's incomplete before 3 p.m. that day. And I, like you, I don't sit in their classes. I have no idea. And even if I look in GradeLink and say this assignment is coming due, I don't understand what that assignment is, or I don't know the full extent of it. I don't know if it's small or big or whatever. I just know that something is coming due. So will it be a standard of practice that the teachers are putting incompletes in early, like right away, so that we can be on top of it, I guess is what I'm saying.
That's a very good question. For each teacher, so the way honestly, it just depends on the teacher's schedule, to be quite honest. So if you're teaching 4 classes in a row, you have that 5-minute window where you can't. I think Mr. Jenkins has a schedule like that where he has like consecutive classes. A couple of us have that. So they're not able to get to it right away, which I do understand. Let's say you're the class at the end of the day. You're the 8th hour class, and it wasn't turned in there. That's where, once again, the teacher's able to use some discretion and say, okay, you couldn't get this in by this time. I'm going to give it to you till tomorrow, but it's an 80%. So we're going to give the student opportunity. So it's not that it's, you didn't get this in right now. I'm not going to have any, no, there's going to be mercy there. But the bigger thing is, here's the standard that we're having, or that we have. We want you to do your best to get to there. And as a teacher, we're going to do our best to be reasonable. But the main thing is we're just trying to tighten the screws on the excessive late homework. And so I guess what I'm saying to you as parents is trust us a little bit here, because we know it's a change. Trust us to have a little bit of that discretion and knowing how to help them.
And I guess that's what I'll tell my son, is because I actually want him doing the homework. Like, I don't want him having it be a 0 in the morning that next day, and he just says, "Ugh, whatever, forget it. It's a 0, I can't make it up." And that's what kids will do.
Yep.
And I actually want him to do it. So there needs to be, that's what I'll tell my kids, is that there's going to be discretion. If you get it done, you'll get some credit. Because I don't want him to skip the knowledge that he could get from that assignment. Because it's going to be on the test. So I want him doing it, you know.
Yeah,
So.
we're in a perfect agreement on that. And all of us teachers, we've discussed, we know what this is potentially going to do, but we also understand, I think it's going to clean up a lot of the issues. And I'll say this, if this, I'm just being truthful, if this totally tanks and is the worst thing ever, I'm not beyond saying, oh, I was wrong, because I'm a human. I make mistakes. So I want to try it out to see how it goes, and I'm not doing it as I've seen it work before, because I'm a product of it. But I also understand we haven't done this in a long time. So, all right. Anyone else?
I have a few questions. The first one, I don't know what's the standard practice about the homework. Can teachers remind kids, so now it's time to put all the homework, because there's only 5 minutes between the classes. Kids come and there's a routine, and the class starts. They just forget to put the homework. I know I have a 10th grader who constantly forgets he does the homework, he forgets to turn it in. That's the first question. What is can teachers just remind kids, okay, homework here, whatever the bin is,
and
or something?
they do that.
Okay,
so all
good.
of us have, I think, pretty much the same policy. Beginning of class, turn in your homework. I'm collecting it. In my science class, I have them bring it up to me right away, put it right here, and I think every teacher.
How about late homework? Do they say, okay, whoever, let's say homework was due yesterday, but today, will they remind kids, whoever still have, homework?
Yeah, I think most of us do that, and many of us have like a late assignment box or something of that nature, but we do remind them,
Okay, good.
even in the high schools too.
I have another question about the absentee or something, something related to absent days, because my 10th grader is the one who misses a lot of classes because of the medical and stuff, the appointments and therapies. If the quiz was on the day when he was absent, when he comes back, when he returns, I'm not talking about the homework, I'm talking about quizzes or tests or something that they do in class. Does he have to do it during his study hall or after school when
Yeah, we would
to make
give him some time, so he's not, so if, let's say you have a test day, well, the next day he comes back, we won't give him the test during that class. We'll give him time to make it up, whether it's during a study hall or after school. We'll give him time to do that. If for some reason the teacher cannot administer the test at the time, the teacher's not going to punish him and say, well, sorry, you were gone for whatever reason, too bad, here's a 0. No, that's not what we're doing. So if the teacher has to leave, hey, she has an appointment right after school and she has to take off, we'll give him the next day to take that test.
And last question, cell phones in study hall. Sometimes I have a feeling they don't do anything during the study hall. I just wonder, what have you done? You had half of your school day, your regular classes are first half, and the second half is study hall. What have you done?
Yeah.
He came home with like a bunch of homework, incomplete homework, late homework, and I don't know. I can't take his cell phone from him because, again, of the medical things. Can we make sure, or can teachers make sure that they don't have their cell phones on their desks at all? They're just
So-
doing their own work.
So in study hall, Mrs. Murphy teaches study hall. I can tell you, Mrs. Murphy is making sure phones aren't out in study hall. And same with Mrs. Kuykendall. Yeah, they don't have them out. Yeah, it's, typically what you'd see in a study hall is this. Most kids have a button in somewhere on their body that they press where it's like, I will sit there with my eyes open and make it look as if I'm working. And, and so they're sitting there writing, well, and we'll walk around. It's not like we're just sitting at the desk. We'll walk around. And as soon as we maybe turn our back, the button goes back on. And they've just gotten a nap with their eyes open. I mean, that happens. Not that I've ever done that in a study hall before.
They just mastered this, right? They just mastered. I don't know, maybe I'm just have a feeling, maybe we should have their phones in a separate designated area away from them at all. I don't know, it's just a suggestion, I don't know, because they're doing such a great job hiding those phones, and they're not doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, and there's rare exceptions, like when I've done a study hall before, a kid says, can I use my phone to check grade link? I say, yes, you can, right by me. And they pull out their phone and check grade link by me. And they put it away. But kids, of course, they're clever. I mean, yeah, I guess, all right, everyone, turn your phones in. I mean, we could do that, but they're not supposed to have it out anyway. So we're making sure they don't have it out now. Some kids sneak it to the side. I'm sure they do. Very hard to stop all of that, but we try.
Thank you so much for all your hard work. Thank you.
All right, a few more questions here. All right, Mrs. Anderson.
I just want to say that as a staff member, I really believe that there are going to be some students who need this. As an adult, there's sometimes when I'm like procrastinating about something and then I set a goal or something and this pressure comes into my life and I have to rise up. So I just believe that at this time, this might be a great time to do this. I'm encouraged, and I think some students at our school are going to rise up, and I'll be there to help them and encourage them, and they're going to improve, in that area. And I know all of the staff, I see it in us that this will be a testing phase, and I would encourage all the parents to just tell their children to talk to the teachers. And if they're an athlete, I mean, I'm always writing when Mrs. Cox was here and then now Mrs. McCroskey. My son and daughter, they had games last night. I'm giving them 2 hours. I'm giving them a 2-hour delay because we're human and I want them to rest. And so I think that's important for us to talk to the teachers and communicate that way. Sometimes they go to Rochester, Brainerd. We're going to Iowa in a couple weeks. And all we have to do is talk to the teachers, and we understand because we love your kids and we want to see them succeed. As far as us parents, I was like Mrs. Ketterling right here, all through middle school with Ben and Sarah. I just named names. And I wish I would have pulled back a little bit and let them fail a little bit more, because I just kept them. But at the same time, that's our job, and that's why we do that as moms, because we are co-educating with First Baptist. Yeah. So we love our kids, we want to see them succeed, and I don't regret a 1 a.m., 2 a.m. Study session with my kids. And then as far as the cell phones, I kind of agree with Mrs. T. And so maybe we can just look at that cell phone policy as far as the phones being in the classrooms. When I taught math last year, at one point, I had a box and I said, phones in there, and then we're going to start class. And they all just put it, as soon as it was instituted, they just walked in, put the phones in there. When they walked out, they took their phone. So if we could just look at that policy again. Okay, that's all.
All right, I think I saw another hand.
Hi. Thank you for pouring into our kids' lives. My daughter struggled really, really hard, 6th and 7th grade. But this year she's excelling. And I think a lot of it has to do with I took her phone for 3 months. Like legit. She didn't even have it. And she got straight A's. Seriously. And the same amount of time, same amount of extracurriculars. But she wasn't just scrolling whatever and doing all the things. Not saying that that's the answer for everybody, but that really helped her focus. And now she was in competitive dance, but she really had to take a step back and think, am I going to be in dance after college? Like, is this really where I want to put my time into? She wants to be a lawyer, and so she wants to focus on her academics. But my question is, so thank you. She's had an amazing time here. But the homework question I have is she looks at GradeLink more than I do. Now, she's obsessed with her grades and getting in her assignment. She was the girl, y'all emailed me, I know, last year I was the terrible parent that never followed up on her homework, I can admit it. I did not look at GradeLink probably once, not at all. But she had that list, and as soon as I would sit down and do the homework with her, she would get it all done. But I'm looking now, being, I want to help her going into this. Some teachers put in upcoming assignments, but some don't. So what is the practice there, or is there going to be a consistency of like, can I expect to look there and go, oh, honey, you have this coming up, you can work ahead, or that would be helpful, maybe.
Yep. I actually sent an email out to the staff just when you make a policy change like this, and I think our staff does their best to have their GradeLink up to date, but I did tell them, just to be transparent, I said, you want to get a parent upset at you, you institute a policy, and then we as the authority aren't holding up to our end. That's a problem. So everyone needs to make sure that, I want you to be able to see the upcoming assignments, things. The practice that I put in place for my classes, I put my whole semester or 9 weeks out there, and I tell every kid, you can turn in the whole 9 weeks before. I'm okay with that. For my science class, I'm okay with that. Because in my science class, they have section reviews. And what I have found is this, when I give them that ability, you'll see kids all of a sudden, it's chapter 5, but they'll turn in chapter 7 stuff. And when we get to chapter 7, they already know it. And typically helps them better on the tests. So I like doing that. Now, you're probably not going to see in math class a whole lot of kids working too far ahead. You'll get a few. You've got the random genius kid who could teach the class maybe, but anyways, so the goal will be teachers will have those assignments ahead of time. And as I said before, the reason why you've seen sometimes the lag in GradeLink is in part because of these missing things. And sometimes the teachers, especially like in math, for example, I've instructed teachers, all right, let's just back it up for a minute and help these kids because, maybe such and such kid has a hole here, or we're seeing a whole group of kids has a hole here. All right, we're going to back it up. So maybe now you see GradeLink, you're not seeing new assignments added because we're going back, and you'll normally see an email with that. We're going back to help this. So the goal will be to make sure that we're sharp when it comes to GradeLink, and you're able to rely on it. And I think we've tried to do that. I check the teacher's GradeLink. So that'll be our goal, to do that. All right. Anyone else? Okay. I want to thank you guys for coming. I will say this. I value every parent at this school and every student. And just to be quite honest, I thought what everyone said tonight was absolutely spot on. And I appreciate you. I really do. We're going to work together on this. So I do not want any parent leaving here, though, thinking, I'm worried for my kid. We're going to help them. I just want us to all be on the same page, so we're knowing what we're doing. And we'll do what we can to bend over backwards to help. But I also want, we're going to bend over backwards, but I want our students to start bending over backwards to get their stuff done too. I want them to start doing what I know they're capable of. And, but anyways, I'll stop there. I'm going to close in prayer. If you have any questions for me after, maybe you didn't want to ask a question here, but if you want to talk to me after, that'd be welcome. Okay, let's pray. Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for the parents of our school. We wouldn't have a school if it wasn't for them sending their kids here, Lord God. I ask that you would help us to raise up a generation of Christian young people who serve you, Lord God, that make a difference in their world. And I pray that, you God, you would bless our parents who are sacrificing greatly. I ask that you would give them health, strength, wisdom, everything they need, Lord God. We ask all this in your name, Jesus. Amen. All right, thank you all for coming. Here's how I like this. Yeah, so here's what I would like for us to do. So whenever we have that, it's best, and I'm just getting a grasp on who has and how much stuff, because everything you told me, one of you, I didn't know that. But if we can get a meeting, sometimes with either you and your wife, or just you and then all the teachers, so we're all on the same page. And here's what this kid needs. I mean, sometimes, yeah, I can interpret that and I'll tell them, but sometimes it's good to hear it also from that parent. So if we schedule just a brief meeting, we can get all the teachers together that student has. And go from there.
The other thing, and this is just for what it's worth, if you want to solve this problem, spend some money or pass it on to your guys. There's a company called Hunter.
No, I haven't.
So basically what they sell is a pouch that locks because you don't want to be in the business of having to store your protein in your office.
Absolutely.
And so basically what it does is they put it in and lock it when they come in. And then teachers and senior can have an unlocking station. Put a magnet inside. And they put it on a magnet and their pouch will open up. You can lock back out. It doesn't make any reception or anything like that. But it makes it so they can get it or whenever you choose for them to
Sure.
get at it.
And it's called Yonder.
Without an ER.
Okay.
YONDR
Okay.
is the name of the company. I think it's about like $40 per pouch or something. I don't know what they charge for. I mean, it's a simple magnet that unlocks it. But I know one school that I've had contact with said they eliminated all of our problems overnight. We weren't sure whether an administrator, she told me, she said, we're not sure if the kids are actually using them, but they disappeared. We never saw them. We never see the phones. And then we just adopted a policy that your phones have to be at it. Or you can't bring your phones or whatever. And all our problems disappeared. But it makes it the kids. They're the ones that are responsible for still physically carrying them. Because you don't want to be in the business.
Absolutely not. It drops. I had
It's
one.
put over here or there.
One kid brought his phone, and I had to take it away. Well, I must have sat on the end of my desk or something. I came back, it was on the ground, and it cracked. Well, now I had to come up with $300 of my own to pay for this kid's screen.
Right.
So,
So
no.
anyhow, I'm not sure if that's worth looking into, but it's a simpler solution to the issue.
Yep.
For what it's worth.
No.
I
They do have them, I think, at the office. Boy, if Mrs. McCroskey can let you in there, if she might be down there right now. And you might go to grab one. Yeah. Oh, that's why you guys are messing with me? I'm pressing these out thinking like, what is going on with me? Or with these things? Let me guess, you had that remote on too.
What?
Oh, I didn't know if you got to that. It maybe it's still on. You gotta hate me.